All right. Thank you very much, Ainsley. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, as you can see, just announced her candidacy for presidency and wasted no time promising to fight climate change and rejoin the Paris Climate Accord that the Trump administration unjoined.
The people are on our side when it comes to climate change. Why? Because like you and I, they believe in science. And on day one, we will rejoin the International Climate Agreement.
Well, there's a reason why President Trump pulled the U.S. out of the deal, and our next guest says it should stay that way. Joining us right now to discuss this, Executive Director for ClimateDepot.com and author of the Politically Incorrect Guide to Climate Change, Mark Morano. The world booed when we got out, Mark. Why shouldn't we go back in?
Well, amazingly, the one thing that the key thing that Donald Trump has been consistent on since the 1980s has been deals that are good for America. You can go back to his Oprah Winfrey interview. So the UN Paris Agreement was literally one of the simplest decisions that President Trump could possibly make, and he made a brilliant decision. The UN Paris Agreement would do nothing for the climate, and using the UN's own estimate, even if you believe Al Gore and the UN scientific claims, it would delay a temperature by 8 months if President Obama's climate commitments came into full fruition by 100 years. In other words, it does nothing for the climate, virtually does nothing for emissions and imposing it on the United States. And beyond that, she says she believes in science. The head of the UN climate panel has actually said he, quote, global warming is my religion. So here you have a UN group that wants to redistribute wealth, centrally transform our economy, and they want the United States in because they want to get our money and they want wealth transfers, and they openly talk about global governance. So it was the greatest decision Donald Trump made, and it has no impact on the climate one way or the other.
Okay, so regarding the Paris Climate Accord, these are some of the points. It would limit the amount of greenhouse gases. It would keep global temps well below 2 degrees Celsius. Review each country's contribution every 5 years. Rich countries to help poor by providing climate finance. Ultimately, though, Mark, how much would it have cost the United States, and how many degrees would it have changed the temperature?
Well, that's the thing. Now, it's been called the most expensive treaty in world history, with a price tag of upwards of $100 trillion, a global cost of $1 to $2 trillion annually. And again, you mentioned this 2 degree thing, and I actually point out this was the authors of this 2 degrees target actually admit it was, quote, pulled from thin air, or the scientists in the United Nations admit this. So, and then even the Washington Post has acknowledged that even if you're afraid of global warming, the UN Paris Agreement would basically do nothing, has no impact on the climate. This is medieval witchcraft to think that we can all come together with some treaty, make a bunch of pledges, and have a temperature 100 years that's different. But again, using the UN's own numbers, 8 months the temperature rise would be delayed if you believe the UN scientific claims. Not even a year if the U.S. does its full commitments under President Obama.
Mark, no mechanism for enforcement, and we have to take the word that gradually China would go live up to the standards that we are. Gradually, as well as Russia.
Yes. And that's absurd. I mean, China, India are building coal plants on a skyrocketing scale right now. China's emissions are going to continue for the next more than a decade until they peak. But the United States is expected to come in, and as President Trump has rightly pointed out, this is a bad deal for America. It's punishing Americans while giving everyone else off the hook. And again, this isn't the Middle Ages. We don't pass laws to control hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, and control temperature. But Amy Klobuchar knows one thing. This is what the Democratic base has to hear. And
that's why they go back. And that's why they all signed on to the Green New Deal.
That's
that topic another day. All right.
Yes.
Thank you.